Armies were larger than launch groups, and the army barracks room was larger too. It was long and narrow with bunks on both sides, so long in fact that you could see the curvature of the floor as the far end bent upward, part of the wheel of the battle school. Ender stood at the door. A few boys near the door glanced at him, but they were older, and it seemed as though they hadn't even seen him. They went on with their conversations, lying and leaning on bunks. They were discussing battles, of course. The older boys always did. They were all much larger than Ender. The 10 and 11-year-olds towered over him. Even the youngest were 8, and Ender was not large for his age. He tried to see which of the boys was the commander, but most were somewhere between battle dress and what the soldiers always called their sleep uniform. Skin from head to toe. Many of them had desks out, but few were studying. Ender stepped into the room. The moment he did, he was noticed. "What do you want?" demanded the boy who had the upper bunk by the door. He was the largest of them. Ender had noticed him before, a young giant who had whiskers growing raggedly on his chin. "You're not a salamander?" "I'm supposed to be, I think," Ender said. Green, brown, right?" "I was transferred." He showed the boy, obviously the door guard, his paper. The door guard reached for it. Ender withdrew it, just out of reach. "I'm supposed to give it to Bonzo Madrid?" Now another boy joined the conversation, a smaller boy, but still larger than Ender. "Not Bonzo, pisshead, Bonzo. The name's Spanish. Bonzo Madrid. Aquí nosotros hablemos español, Señor Gran Federo." "You must be Bonzo, then?" Ender asked, pronouncing the name correctly. "No, just a brilliant and talented polyglot, Petra Arkanian, the only girl in Salamander Army, with more balls than anybody else in the room." "Mother Petra, she talking," said one of the boys. She talking. Another one chimed in, shit talking. Quite a few laughed. "Just between you and me," Petra said, "if they give the battle school an enema, they'd stick it in at green, brown." Ender despaired. He already had nothing going for him, grossly undertrained, small, inexperienced, doomed to be resented for early advancement, and now, by chance, he had made exactly the wrong friend, an outcast in Salamander Army, and she had just linked him with her in the minds of the rest of the army. A good day's work. For a moment, as Ender looked around at the laughing, jeering faces, he imagined their bodies covered with hair, their teeth pointing for tearing. Am I the only human being in this place? Are all the others animals waiting only to devour? Then he remembered Alais. In every army, surely, there was at least one worth knowing. Suddenly, though, no one said to be quiet. The laughter stopped, and the group fell silent. Ender turned to the door. A boy stood there, tall and slender, with beautiful black eyes and slender lips that hinted at refinement. "I would follow such beauty," said something inside Ender. "I would see as those eyes see." "Who are you?" asked the boy quietly. "Ender Wiggins, sir," Ender said, "reassigned from launch to Salamander Army." He held out the papers. The boy took the paper in a swift, sure movement, without touching Ender's hand. "How old are you, Wiggin?" he asked. "Almost 7. Still quietly, he said, "I asked how old you are, not how old you almost are." "I am 6 years, 9 months, and 12 days old." "How long have you been working in the battle room?" "A few months now. My aim is better." "Any training in battle maneuvers? Have you ever been part of a tune? Have you ever carried out a joint exercise?" Ender had never heard of such things. He shook his head. Madrid looked at him steadily. "I see. As you will quickly learn, the officers in command of this school, most notably Major Anderson, who runs the game, are fond of playing tricks. Salamander Army is just beginning to emerge from indecent obscurity. We have won 12 of our last 20 games. We have surprised Rat and Scorpion and Hound, and we are ready to play for leadership in the game. So of course, I am given such a useless, untrained, hopeless specimen of underdevelopment as yourself." Petra said quietly, "He isn't glad to meet you." "Shut up, Arkanian," Madrid said. "To one trial, we now add another. But whatever obstacles our officers choose to fling in our path, we are still—" "Salamander!" cried the soldiers in one voice. Instinctively, Ender's perception of these events changed. It was a pattern, a ritual. Madrid was not trying to hurt him. merely taking control of a surprising event and using it to strengthen his control of his army. We are the fire that will consume them, belly and bowel, head and heart, many flames of us, but one fire. Salamander! They cried again. Even this one will not weaken us. For a moment, Ender allowed himself to hope. I'll work hard and learn quickly, he said. I didn't give you permission to speak. Madrid answered, I intend to trade you away as quickly as I can. I'll probably have to give up someone valuable along with you, but as small as you are worse than useless. One more frozen, inevitably in every battle. That's all you are. And we're now at a point where every frozen soldier makes a difference in the standings. Nothing personal, Wiggin, but I'm sure you can get your training at someone else's expense. He's all hot, Petra said. Madrid stepped closer to the girl and slapped her across the face with the back of his hand. It made a little sound, for only his fingernails had hit her, but there were bright red marks, 4 of them, on her cheek, and little pricks of blood marked where the tips of his fingernails had struck. Here are your instructions, Wiggin. I expect that it is the last time I'll need to speak to you. You will stay out of the way when we are training in the battle room. You have to be there, of course, but you will not belong to any tune, and you will not take part in any maneuvers. When we are called to battle, you will dress quickly and present yourself at the gate with everyone else. But you will not pass through the gate until 4 full minutes after the beginning of the game, and then you will remain at the gate with your weapons undrawn and unfired until such time as the game ends. Ender nodded. So he was to be a nothing. He hoped the trade happened soon. He also noticed that Petra did not so much as cry out in pain or touch her cheek, though one spot of blood had beaded and run, making a streak down to her jaw. Outcast she may be, but since Bonzo Madrid was not going to be Ender's friend, no matter what, he might as well make friends with Petra. He was assigned a bunk at the far end of the room, the upper bunk, so that when he lay on his bed he couldn't even see the door. The curve of the ceiling blocked it. There were other boys near him, tired-looking boys, sullen, the ones least valued. They had nothing of welcome to say to Ender. Ender tried to palm his locker open, but nothing happened. Then he realized the lockers were not secured. All 4 of them had rings on them to pull them open. Nothing would be private. Now that he was in an army. There was a uniform in the locker, not the pale green of the Launchies, but the orange-trimmed dark green of Salamander Army. It did not fit well, but then they had probably never had to provide such a uniform for a boy so young. He was starting to take it off when he noticed Petra walking down the aisle toward him. He slid off the bunk and stood on the floor to greet her. Relax, she said. I'm not an officer. You're a tune leader, aren't you? Someone nearby sniggered. Whatever gave you that idea, Wiggin? You have a bunk in the front. I bunk in the front because I am the best sharpshooter in Salamander Army, and because Bonzo is afraid I'll start a revolution if the tune leaders don't keep an eye on me. As if I could start anything with boys like these. She indicated the sullen-faced boys on the nearby bunks. What was she trying to do? Make it worse than it already was? Everybody's better than I am, Ender said, trying to dissociate himself from her contempt from the boys who would, after all, be his near bunkmates. I'm a girl, she said, and you are a pissant of a 6-year-old. We have so much in common. Why don't we be friends? I won't do your desk work for you, he said. In a moment, she realized it was a joke. Ha! It's all so military when you're in the game. School for us isn't like it is for Launchies. History and strategy and tactics and buggers and math and stars. Things you'll need as a pilot or a commander. You'll see. So you're my friend. Do I get a prize? Ender asked. He was imitating her swagger way of speaking, as if she cared about nothing. Bonzo isn't going to let you practice. He's going to make you take your desk to the battle room and study. He's right in a way. He don't want a totally untrained little kid to screw up his precision maneuvers. She lapsed into Jiria, the slangy talk that imitated the pidgin English of uneducated people. Bonzo, he precise. He's so careful. He piss on a plate and never splash. Ender grinned. A battle room is open all the time. If you want, I'll take you in the off hours and show you some of the things I know. I'm not a great soldier, but I'm pretty good, and I sure know more than you. If you want, Ender said, starting tomorrow morning after breakfast. What if somebody's using the room? We always went right after breakfast in my launch. No problem. There are really 9 battle rooms. I never heard of any others. They all have the same entrance. The whole center of the battle school, the hub of the wheel, is battle rooms. They don't rotate with the rest of the station. That's how they do the no-lo, the no gravity. It just holds still. No spin, no down. They can set it up so that any one of the rooms is at the battle room entrance door that we all use. Once you're inside, they move it along and another battle room's in position. Oh, like I said, right after breakfast. Right, Ender said. She started to walk away. Petra? He said. She turned back. Thanks. She said nothing, just turned around again and walked down the aisle. Ender climbed back up on his bunk and finished taking off his uniform. He lay naked on the bed, doodling with his new desk, trying to decide if they had done anything to his access codes. Sure enough, they had wiped out his security system. He couldn't own anything here, not even his desk. The lights dimmed a little, getting toward bedtime. Ender didn't know which bathroom to use. Go left out of the door, said the boy on the next bunk. We share it with Rat, Condor, and Squirrel. Ender thanked him and started to walk on past. Hey, said the boy, you can't go like that. Uniforms at all times out of this room. Even going to the toilet? Especially. And you're forbidden to speak to anyone from any other army, at meals or in the toilet. You can get away with it sometimes in the game room, and of course whenever a teacher tells you to. But if Bonzo catch you, you dead, eh? Thanks. And, Bonzo get mad if you skinned by Petra. She was naked when I came in, wasn't she? She do what she liked, but you keep your clothes on. Bonzo's orders. That was stupid. Petra still looked like a boy. It was a stupid rule. It set her apart, made her different, split the army. Stupid, stupid. How did Bonzo get to be a commander if he didn't know better than that? Alay would be a better commander than Bonzo. He knew how to bring a group together. I know to bring a group together too, thought Ender. Maybe I'll be a commander someday. In the bathroom, he was washing his hands when somebody spoke to him. Hey, they putting babies in salamander uniforms now? Ender didn't answer. He dried off his hands. Hey, look! Salamander's getting babies now. Look at this. He can walk between my legs without touching my balls. 'Cause you got none, Dink. That's why, somebody answered. As Ender left the room, he heard somebody else say, It's Wiggin, you know, the smart-ass launchy from the game room. He walked down the corridor smiling. He may be short, but they knew his name. From the game room, of course, so it meant nothing. But they'd see. He'd be a good soldier, too. They'd all know his name soon enough. Not in Salamander Army, maybe, but soon enough.